All right, here we go. We have real estate mogul and best-selling author Grant Cardone in the building.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. First time I've been called a real estate mogul. I don't even know what the definition of a mogul is.
I think you're the definition. You're definitely the definition of that.
No, but I've always wondered, what is the number? Is it a certain amount of units, a certain amount of square feet, a certain amount of money? I don't actually know what that term means, but...
Well, I mean, in some of your own videos, you've mentioned that you're worth $500 million.
No, I never mentioned that because I think the net worth...
You did mention that you said in that ballpark, $400 or $500 million.
Okay, all right. So I have control of $1.2 billion worth of real estate today. That will become a $10 billion fund. I'm 100% confident that we'll take that thing to $10 billion. So I don't know what that does from a net worth standpoint, but there'll be plenty of money to take care of life's challenges.
Okay, $1.2 billion worth of real estate, and I guess it's like 4,000 units?
It's almost 7,000 units since you read that little thing, so we're growing every day.
Okay, well listen, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Me personally, I'm a stock guy, and that's what I push.
Yeah.
But I could completely respect what people do on the multi-unit side.
Yeah.
And that's how you made a lot of your fortune, from what I understand.
Yeah, I just don't understand stocks, right? I don't understand a piece of paper. Like my argument is, why would I trade a piece of paper for another piece of paper?
Well, it's not a piece of paper; it's a part of a company.
Yeah.
It's a piece. It's a piece of a company.
Yeah.
Like if you and I became business partners, and I own half of Cardone Industries, it would be a piece of paper, but I would own half of whatever you made.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and start at the beginning. This is actually your first time here. Where did you grow up exactly?
I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Family of, I guess there were 7 of us, 5 kids. My mom and dad, both from Italian parents that came over on the boat. And my dad was, he was a stockbroker actually. Yeah, I'll tell you something really funny. My dad was a stockbroker. His last career before he died at 52 years old. I was 10. He was a stockbroker, and on the weekends, he would take the family out looking at real estate. How about that oxymoron? Or like, I'm like, wait a minute, you're a stock guy. On the weekends, why aren't we studying stocks? Why are you out shopping for real estate? So...
Okay, and your dad died when you were only 10 years old.
Yeah, he was. We were the youngest. My twin brother and I. My dad died at. I was 10. So the income that he was able to provide, he was the sole provider of the household. So that like the king, the provider, the guy that we were so dependent upon, he died, and left my mom in a situation where she was back. That's back in the 50s. 60s, I guess, and she's the housewife, the mother. She didn't know how to get money. She didn't know how to bring money in. So we went, this family unit went into total fear. Like if there was already fear in the environment, I'm sure you can relate to this. It escalated to like, okay, she sold a house the next week. The house he had paid for, she sold the following week because she knew she couldn't keep it up. She cashed all the death insurance, the life insurance, death insurance, cashed the money, grabbed all the money she could, and just tried to figure out, okay, how am I going to manage these 5 kids, feed them every day, keep a roof over their head. So, it was that environment, I think, has a lot to do with my commitment to trying to figure out my own financial freedom, not just how to buy another watch, but how not to worry every second of every day.
Okay, so here you are, 10 years old, and everything is going crazy.
Yeah.
Your mom panics and sells the house, and, she doesn't have a career, so she can't just go back into the workplace because she's been a housewife. And are all the kids stressed out and really kind of going crazy at this point?
Well, I mean, I don't go Dr. Phil on me, right? But I think what's happening, even as a 10-year-old, I knew my mom should have been in grief and she wasn't. I knew I was in grief. I was like, oh my God, I had this big loss. My twin brother, he's in grief. I mean, the family is in grief, but there's this underlying shift that something massive has changed. Now, if any family ever loses a breadwinner, right, or even 2008, look at 2007, 2008, the entire country went into mass fear.
Right. Right.
The fact that my mom had to downsize the house, she did the right thing, by the way. I don't think that she knee-jerked. I think she did the right thing. She dumped as fast as she could so that she could protect the family, right? It is the right thing that people do. People are out buying stuff that, she was cutting back. So I could feel this low-grade fear that did not exist just months before this, when my dad was bringing money in. And she didn't know how. She didn't know how she was going to do that. And the best way to bring money in at that point is to sell any assets that are paid for. Unfortunately, we still need a place to live. So, yeah, we could feel it. I think everybody could feel it.
Okay. But you guys get through high school, okay, and then you end up going to college.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So, and I'm getting the pitch every day that because I'm watching my mom. She never holds a job, by the way. My dad left enough life insurance money that she could literally manage the money. She was buying stocks, AT&T stock, any high dividend stocks she would buy. But she was worried constantly about those investments. She's watching them every day, Philip Morris stock, all the high dividend stocks back in the day. She was also earning 8 to 10% at the bank on the cash that my dad had left. Okay, this is back in the day. She's worried about the plumber, the contractor, the car dealer, anybody that she has to do business with. She's terrified. She's certain that they're going to rip her off. She didn't know anything. And when you don't know anything, as you know, you're worried about everybody, pulling the wool over your eyes and charging you too much. Again, the missing piece as I look back was there was no income coming in. So whether I was 13, 15, 17, hey, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. I'm like, why? It's going to cost us money to go to college. You can get a loan, or maybe get a scholarship. I didn't get a scholarship. I'm like, why am I going to go to college? I ought to go earn money. And she's like, no, your dad wanted you to get a degree. So I went and did the college route. My life between 15 and 25 turned into total like dark chaos. And okay. I end up with a drug problem between 15 and 25. Serious drug problem, hanging out with the wrong people. I didn't want to be in high school. I didn't want to be in college. I'm not blaming high school and college on my drug problem, but I wanted to go do something. I wanted to help out.
Now, in college, what did you study? And did you graduate?
I studied accounting, and I did graduate, yeah. I don't know how I graduated, but I did.
And why accounting at that point?
Because I said, hey, what's the best business degree I can get? And they're like, accounting's the best. Okay, good, I'll do that.
Okay, so there's no passion behind it. You were just going after the money.
Yeah, I mean, the only passion was I've always been interested in money. Since I was 8 years old, I've always been like, whoever has the money has control.
Okay. So you graduate college at what, like 22 or something?
I get out of college, I guess I was, 23 years old.
Okay.
Took me a little longer because I had a major in drugs and a minor in information.
Well, I guess you almost got beat to death at 23?
I did. At 23, I had 73 stitches put in my head and face, hanging out with the wrong people. Bunch of Russian guys.
Yeah, man, Russians.
Yeah, no, just kidding. But it's a bunch of Louisiana hicks, and anyway, that was kind of ugly. 73 stitches. I was in a hospital for 4 days. And
okay.
You'd think I would turn my life around then, Vlad, but I didn't. It took another 2 years before I turned things around.
Well, because you had a drug problem at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was what, cocaine?
It was any drug. Like people were like, hey, what was your drug of choice? Which one you got?
Okay, you were just doing everything.
Whatever, it didn't matter. Like it wasn't like some drug had a hold on me. It was like I had no direction in my life. I had no mentorship in my life. I had no guidance, and I was doing stuff that I didn't want to do. Like I did not want to sit in a classroom. I had no. These weren't my ideas. To like sit in a classroom, learn accounting, not know how I'm going to use it later on. I was bored, man. I mean, my number one problem in my life has been boredom. Anytime I got something to do, I don't cause people problems. If I'm bored, I become a problem to society.
Well, at one point, I guess at 25, you go to rehab, but it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I went to rehab. It did do one thing for me. I quit using drugs. I was there 25 days, and I mean the benefit of rehab is I was finally in an environment where, it wasn't easy to get drugs. You could probably get them there, but most people were going there to get off the drugs, and that environment helped me to get off of drugs.
Okay, so now you're 25 years old, you're clean, but you don't have really any money.
I'm broke. I'm in debt. And I don't have a lot of direction, but I do know that I'm not using drugs again. Like I come back with this ferocious commitment. I'm not going back to drug scene. I took the energy from that, because being a drug addict does take some energy. It takes a commitment.
Right.
And so I needed to turn that commitment. I remember sitting in my little apartment. I was paying $175 a month for this little apartment. I was all by myself. First night after the treatment center. And I'm like, I'm going to pour this insane commitment I have to destroying myself. I'm going to pour that into work. And at that time, I was selling automobiles in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I was selling Toyotas. I hated my job, but I knew I couldn't get another job. Everybody knew I had a problem in the little town I was in. So I went back to that car dealer and said, hey, I'm going to give you everything I have and more. And so I would get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, work till 11 o'clock at night. Poured myself into this job. Literally, I hated the job, Vlad. I hated being a salesman. I hated talking to people. I hated calling people back. I felt like I was just worse than being a drug addict, almost. Having to sell something to get paid a commission. But I learned how to do it to the point to where I became one of the top 1% of all the sales producers in the country.
Okay. So then you're doing better at your job and you decide to buy your first house.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a single family home.
Yeah. Well, you know my story, dude. That's awesome. So yeah, I put a little money together, and somebody says, well, you shouldn't rent, you should own. So I went and bought a house, put $3,000 down on a $78,000 house. I think the payments were $375 a month. I rented it for $575, decided not to move in, rented it out to, I think her name was Jane and her sister. Picked up $200 a month, 200 times 12. This is my accounting. 200 times 12, 2,400. I put $3,000 in. It's an 80% return. I'm going to become a real estate mogul.
And that was working out until the renters moved out.
Yeah, until November. Till November, they moved out in November. Worst time of the year. Houston, Texas. I was in Houston now. It's cold. It's wet. They move out. November, December, January, February, there's no way to get a renter. I didn't know anything about real estate. Like I just bought the first house that I saw, put $3,000 down because it was easy and I was qualified. It's easy to get a loan because I told the bank I was gonna, live there. And I made $200 for the first 4 or 5 months. And then the next 4 months I had to make the whole payment. So I go from being positive to negative $375 every month, terrified. I'm back to fear again, my new friend. And sold the house in February or March and said, I'll never do that again. That was a mistake.
Yeah, and one of the things I've always said, I've owned single family homes and condos over the years. And every single time I did that, when I finally sold, I would just break even. I never actually made, and some of them I owned for 2 or 3 years, some of them I owned for like 10 or 12 years, but at no time did I make any sort of real profit. It more or less just broke even.
Yeah. And you're worried the whole time because you're dependent upon one door. It goes back to this thing I say, never depend on one of anything, ever. Like you need, for real estate to work, you need a lot of doors. The reason Amazon works is because they got a lot of doors into Amazon.
Well, yeah. I mean, my first house that I bought, it was a $500,000 home in the Oakland Hills. I was in the tech business, and right after I bought it, the tech bust happened in 2000. And I had this mortgage, and I had no income coming in, and I had to panic and just sell it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and people act like everybody makes money on real estate. That's not true. Like, there's millions and millions of people that lost their homes in 2008 and 2009 and 2010. It wasn't a handful of people, dude. It was millions of families across the country. They didn't just lose their house and the profits. They lost their credit because they were having to pay for that thing. And that's what I learned. I spent 3 years, Vlad, after I made a mistake on that first deal. And the mistake I made was I should have got in that deal, put a tenant in, and sold the house to somebody else that would collect the rent. But what I did was I held it and didn't understand the whole marketplace. And so I spent the next 3 years in Houston shopping real estate and learning what the big moguls, the word you use, the big real estate moguls did. And what all real estate moguls do, whether it was Sam Zell or Donald Trump's dad, Fred, was they always bought multiple doors and rented them out to typically in one location so that they had big income flows from and not dependent upon one door.
Well, your next real estate purchase, it was a 38 unit complex in San Diego.
Yeah.
Which cost $1.9 million.
This guy knows it all, man.
Well, and you put $350,000 down on this big unit. So how did you have $350 in cash at that point?
I was banking cash. So for the next 3 years, I stayed at the same job I had. I actually transferred out of the auto business and started because I got really good in the auto space. People knew about me and kind of what I had done in this little car dealership. I started consulting manufacturers around the United States, and I had a business. That was my company. And I would take all the extra money and I would just store it off to the side. I didn't understand stocks. I've never understood stocks, as I said, and I didn't want to trade paper for paper. I wanted to be in metal, glass, concrete, something I could touch and hold. So what I did was I studied real estate for 3 years. I bought my first deal after looking at thousands and thousands of properties. My next deal was $1.9 million. I put $350,000 in. And then closed that deal. 30 days later, bought another deal. 90 days after that, bought another deal. Had like 200 units within 4 or 5 months. But it took me 3 years of doing research, looking at deals to get comfortable enough to know the right thing to pull the trigger on.
Okay, so what made that San Diego 38 unit property the right deal at that point?
Well, a number of factors that I still use today. Number one, it was below replacement value. That means somebody couldn't build it for less than I was buying it for. Number two, it cash flowed from the first day that I owned it. Even if it was only 88% occupied, probably even down to 85, maybe even down to 80, it would still cash flow, meaning it would pay for the debt and all the expenses of the property. Three, it was going to provide me with somewhere between 6 and 12% cash flow per year, better than the banks at that time. And four, I believed it was hard to replace that piece of property, and that I would sell that in the future for some number above what I paid for it, based on not the property, but based on the income that the property produced. And that was the piece that I was missing when I bought my first deal, right? This kind of real estate, like the houses you talked about, they're only worth is what somebody's willing to pay for that house. The real estate that I buy today is people are buying the income from the real estate. They're not buying, it's what is the value of Netflix? Well, the more subscribers they get, the more valuable people think it is. I'm basically in real estate buying cash flow, not, it's a beautiful house in the neighborhood and it's got a great location. We're buying great locations. Yes, they look good, but most importantly, they create cash flow for the investor.
Okay, and what year was this?
This was, let me see, I'm 33 years old. Mid-90s maybe?
Mid-90s, okay.
Yeah.
So
this is after the savings and loans bust. This is mid-90s. Right. You couldn't getting a loan at that time on a place was hard. You had to put a lot of money down, similar to what it is today. And this is good. You don't want to over leverage debt. Okay. When the economy collapsed in 2007, I didn't lose anything. All my buddies lost everything because they over leveraged. I didn't. Put a bunch of money down. The banks did not want to give me a loan on the deal. I had to go to 3 or 4 banks to get my first loan, first real estate loan. So I financed, I think on that deal, $1.5 million. End up selling that place for almost $6 million. I made more money on my first real estate deal than I made for my business in 5 years. So I was hooked.
Okay, how many years later did you sell that property?
I think I sold that thing 3.5 years later, 36 months.
Wow, so you tripled your money on that property.
No, I 10x my money.
Oh,
I only put 350 down.
Oh, right, yeah, because you put down 350. Got it.
So I crushed it.
Okay.
I was hooked, dude. I was like, okay, I'm going to get rich doing this. After my first deal, I'm like, I'm not going to get rich. I'm going to get wealthy doing this. You can get rich at work. You know this. You get wealthy investing.
So how did you, if you put in most of your cash into this first multi-unit, how did you get the other multi-units right afterwards?
So I had $1 million saved by the time I was 33 years old.
Oh, okay.
So I would work, I would take all my cash, set it off to the side, store it. I wasn't saving money, I was storing it. I was like literally I said, hey, where can I put my money in storage? And because I didn't want the banks to have it. So I'm storing the money and knowing, I still do this today. Every day, first thing I do every day is look at my cash accounts to figure out where can I get rid of this trash. Cash is trash. So I'm trying to trade paper for something that inflation will help, not hurt. So I'm banking cash, and I had $1 million. I did the first 350. 30 days later, I went and bought another deal. I think that deal took 400, and I was off to the races.
Okay, so within a year, you now have what, 200 units?
I had 38, 48, and 92, whatever that was. Yeah, about just under 200 units.
Just under 200. Okay, so now you have multiple multi-unit
Three
properties.
properties.
And are you using management services and everything else like that to run them all?
What I did was I had a guy named Dale, and I said, Dale, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 25% of the upside. You manage the deals. Don't steal from me. If you ever steal from me, I'm not going to give you the 25% of the upside. Manage the deals, watch them, fill them up, keep them filled, and then I'll give you a quarter of the upside. I gave him too much, but it worked out good for everybody.
Okay. So what happens next after this?
Let's see, man. Then I thought I was a big shot because I got money coming in all the time. I mean, this was all new to me. So now I got 200 units paying me. I'm getting maybe $150 a month. Passive income. A little time goes by. I end up selling those units. I sold everything I had in San Diego. Went to Tucson, Arizona, about 2,200 units in 3 days. So I went from like 200 units to 2,200.
Okay, the 2,200 units. How much did that cost you? Like altogether?
I forget what the number was. I think I made 13 or 14 million when I came out of that deal, though.
Okay.
So now I'm having scores.
Okay, well now you're working within tens of millions of dollars now. You're now in the 8-digit game at this point.
Yeah, I don't know that though. I don't know that while I'm doing it. It's interesting you say that because while I'm doing it, I'm just doing deals, man. I'm just, that old adage about pigs go, what is it? The hogs go to slaughter, something.
Yeah, bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered.
Yeah. I was never a pig. I'm like, let me pick up my money and let me move on. But somewhere in there, I got comfortable. And I started thinking I was the shit. I should have been scaling up the whole time. What I did in Tucson, I should have flipped that portfolio and gone and bought 4,000 and then gone from 4,000 to 8,000. Instead, what happened was, and it was probably good for me because you don't know while you're doing it, but I pulled back a little bit and moved back to San Diego. I grabbed my profits out of Tucson in 2007 and went and bought real estate sitting on the ocean in La Jolla and up the North County coast. And obviously, the crash is about to come. So I did preserve some wealth there by doing that. I don't know what would have happened if I'd have scaled.
Okay. Now, with all these real estate deals, whenever you're selling a piece of property, do you put all the money into a new piece of property? Because if you don't, you end up paying massive taxes on it.
Yeah. I never pay taxes. If there's a way not to pay, I never pay.
Okay, so you're constantly basically flipping your money into other real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So I never have the money, right? I can never actually touch the money. You know, in a real estate transaction, as you know, if you touch any of the money, then it's going to get taxed. So what I would do is I would just trade into another deal, and I'm not avoiding the IRS. I'm just deferring till the future, some future, like who knows when that is, so right. That I can get my money to work. And this is where I really started learning about money, because they don't teach you this in college. 5 years of college, they didn't teach me, look, keep growing the nut. Like the value of the property, the equity in the property, it went from 350 grand, 3 million, 9 million to 12 million. I can't spend any of it. This is what so many of your listeners need to understand, is that, like, I'm not buying Gucci belts. I didn't have a European car until I was 45 years old. I was worth millions of dollars based on the real estate, but I didn't have any nice stuff. Nobody knew my life had changed. But as this equity is growing, it's paying me every month in passive income. I was starting to earn more money from my passive investments than I was from my earned income. And I never took any attention off of my earned income. I was still pounding on my businesses. I had 2 little businesses and the real estate. So I gave the real estate to Dale to manage. And then the other 2 businesses, I just kept pushing on. And as I would accumulate more cash, we'd go buy more deals.
So then 2007 hits. And, you know, and I remember leading up to 2007, they were giving loans to anybody and everybody. It didn't matter. You could work at a grocery store and you could get approved for a $500,000 house. Like, they had option arm loans where you start out and your mortgage payment is nothing. And they say, well, don't worry about it. You'll just refinance when the house goes up and it'll still stay low forever. And then everything unraveled in 2007. Yeah. How did that hit your business? You had a lot of property.
The whole environment was insane, right? Even before the bust, a guy like me, I'm trying to do this business very practical, very conservative investments. I'm putting a lot of money down to buy a deal. So if a deal's $8 million, I'm putting $2.4 million down. I got my buddies. My buddies are buying an $8 million deal, taking 800 grand out. And I'm like, what are you guys doing, man? This is insane. Well, you should be doing it too. I said, dude, there's nothing about this that makes sense except that it's too easy. And so, you know, everybody was doing this, okay? Now, this reminded me of the drug days, my drug days, when I couldn't say no to something. And to me, it's like, you have to say no. If you want to create wealth for yourself, there's things you have to say no to. I didn't lose one piece of property in 2007, 8, 9, 10. I never lost anything. Every one of my friends that did this nonsense lost everything they had. I had a bank. I owed $50 million to a bank. The bank went under. Okay? Because they participated in the foolishness. Now, here's the problem with that. When you're in a bar and the place goes insane, it doesn't matter whether you're carrying a gun or drinking or doing foolish stuff or not. If you're in the mass hysteria of insanity, you're gonna get beat up. And I was in all this, right? So first thing that happens is the bank collapses. New bank comes in and says, we need our money. I'm like, the money's not due for a couple years. Yeah, no. You violated this agreement and that agreement. I'm like, what? Technical default. I never even heard that term. It's a technical default on the loan because your net worth changed. I'm like, what? He's like, the value of the properties are down. I'm like, dude, the value of the entire universe went down. So they're trying to squeeze people that had money, because the people that didn't have money were folding so fast. The banks couldn't keep up with it. The second thing that happened to me is one of my idiot friends, Ralph, calling you out right now. I hope you hear this, you and Shamali. These guys sue me for $60 million because I was taking an interest in possibly buying their business. Found out that they were doing all these shenanigans, lying to the bank, false reporting, pulled out of the deal. They claimed that I ruined their business when the truth is their business was going to go down anyway. So I got a $60 million lawsuit. I owe $50 million to the banks. You can't sell anything. My other two businesses have been like literally cut in half, maybe cut by 2/3. I was living in Los Angeles, about to have a baby, my first baby, just got married, told my wife, I said, we can't spend one penny on anything. And I have no idea how long this is going to last. So it didn't, financially, it just terrified me, right? Because I realized then, Vlad, how much it takes to really be protected in society today. Because you don't know these things are going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I always say, it's much easier to make money than to keep your money. And the more you have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Against lawsuits, against scammers, people trying to steal from you, legally and illegally.
Yeah.
So you're going through this at this point. People are suing you and the bank is messing with you. But you have all these properties and people are still paying rent every day, every month.
And you know what? I cash flowed every month. So the thing that protected me was when the bank said, hey, you need to pay off. I said, hey, this is where like no education prepares a person for this kind of activity. And one of the things that I didn't know was, that car sales career that I hated prepared me to be a brutal negotiator. So here I had the big bank coming in from Minnesota telling me I had to pay the loan off. And I'm like, hey guys, let me explain to you how this plays out. Okay, big bank that just took a big government loan is gonna come cranking down on a guy at the worst time in the history of the United States, and I have never missed a payment, never been late. You've never sent me a late fee. How the hell do you guys take this away from me? I don't think you do. My lawyer's telling me you can't do this. They're gonna do it. They're gonna push you. I said, hey, this got nothing to do with the law now. This is all about optics. It's gonna be about PR. So I got that thing I'm having to fight. There's no book on it. Your lawyer's going to tell you you're wrong. Then I got this lawsuit going on. I'm having to negotiate with these nutcases. And this is where you find out who you are. You find out how strong you are, how strong-willed you are, how right you are, how your ego can get in the way where even if you're not wrong, maybe you just need to give them some money and say, go away. But it takes a lot of courage to play that game at that point. And no one will ever be prepared for it. It's impossible to prepare for that.
Well, ultimately, the economy, after about a year and a half, 2 years, starts to level out and kind of get back on track again. And the real estate market has bottomed out to such a degree that you can get stuff unbelievably cheap. So are you at the point of buying again?
No, I was still in trauma, man. So what was happening though, and I didn't notice it, was my rents started going up. Before anything got better in the economy, the first thing that repaired before the stock market, the bond market, the rental market started improving. But I was so scared I couldn't see it. I was literally so terrified. It's like Mike Tyson. I was interviewing Mike, and he's famous for that saying. He says, everybody's got a fight plan until they get punched in the face. Well, I had been punched in the face so many times over the last 24 months. I could not see out of my eyeballs. It was like they were swollen, and I couldn't see that the guy had his hands down and was waiting for me to knock him out. Because I should have been buying. I could have become a billionaire in 2010 if I would have just had the gall and the courage to go out and start buying everything.
Right, but hindsight is always 20/20, and who knew that could have gone on for another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it could, and that's what I was worried about. I was like, man, when does this thing end? But there were obvious signs that it was ending, right? When the rent started raising. I mean, you can't keep America down forever anyway. Like it's always going to recover. It's just almost impossible. I don't think you can keep any country down forever. I was just on a 9-country tour in Singapore and Malaysia, and like people are going to figure out how to do better.
So the recession eventually ends, and do you start to buy after that?
I started buying. I bought 1,000 units. My next purchase would be 1,000 units. So I'm done. I'm done now with buying 200 units at a time. I bought a portfolio for $1,000. I think that was 2009 or 10 or 11. So I'm starting to play the game a little bit, hunt a little bit. And my next deal would be the biggest deal I'd ever bought. I stole that thing too.
And that was 1,000 units?
1,100 units for $58 million. It's probably worth $200 million today.
So you bought $58 million worth of property?
Yeah, one deal, $15 million down. I emptied my cash reserves.
Okay. And did you still keep all those other properties from before?
No, I sold those.
Aha.
I sold it all, grabbed the money from that, sold a house I had in LA, sold that too, sold everything, dude. I said, I'm getting rid of everything that doesn't produce a lot of income. I lived in Lionel Richie's house up in the hills, probably one of the top 3 or 4, maybe 5 nicest houses.
I've been to that house, actually.
House was sick. Like, people were like, oh, he's such a bragger.
Yeah.
This house was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sold that to the Waltons, picked up $8 million, took the 8, bought the real estate portfolio, added 7 to it, dumped everything, just pulled all the money together, bought this big portfolio, one big strike at one time. And, it was definitely a game changer. One deal can change your whole life.
Okay. And since that time, you just continued to accumulate more and more multi-units.
Yeah. So now we're at about almost 7,000 units. We'll close this month.
7,000 units.
Yeah, like we did, just so we did $300 million worth of deals last quarter of last year. I'm going to add $400 million by July of this year.
So you've said before that, and this was back when you had 4,000 units. You said that you make about $250 profit per unit. Is that a pretty good average these days?
Let me see. What would that be? I need my phone. Maybe not that much, right? But because we were buying stuff cheaper then. So, I'm having to pay more money today because people are waking up to that. Income producing property is the new gold on this planet.
Okay. I mean, even at $200 profit, 7,000 units, you're making $1.4 million in profit a month.
Okay. Now,
But
just so everybody understands, that is pure cash flow. That is not.
Yeah.
I'm still taking care of the roof, the paint, the concrete, the parking, rehabbing the properties, kitchens, taxes, property taxes, management. And, those checks, unless the rental market, unless people suddenly quit renting apartments.
Okay. So now you have this massive amount of real estate. What I found interesting also, I watched one of your videos, and this is something that I do as well. I have a property in Calabasas. I have a big, a nice size house in Calabasas. I also have an apartment in New York City. I rent both of them. I don't own any property.
Yeah.
In terms of where I live. Here you are with a $1.2 billion net worth, and you don't own a house, a personal house.
Yeah, I rent my house.
Right.
I get a better loan on it because I rent it. I could I could have a LLC own it and rent it back to me, and I'd still get a better deal. So, I rent where I live. I treat houses like hospitals. You get in, you get out.
Yeah.
The grocery store, Whole Foods. I don't buy the whole grocery store. I go get the stuff I need, and then I leave. And houses were built for banks. They weren't built for people. They were built for banks. And then the people were lied to and said, oh, a house is a great investment. A house is one of the dumbest, worst investments a human being could possibly make for one reason. You have to pay the house doesn't pay you. And if it doesn't pay you, it's not a good investment.
Well, not only, that, but what a lot of people don't realize, because there's so many arguments you always hear over and over again, like, when you rent, you're paying someone else's mortgage. That's my favorite one. When the reality is if you have any sort of typical loan, you're just paying interest to the bank. You could live in a house. You could have a 30-year mortgage, live in a house for 15 years, and still owe exactly what the house was worth when you bought it.
Or it could be worse.
Could be worse.
So, what we know about houses is the bank's going to make if the loan's 6%, the bank's going to make 6% on the loan every year for 30 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that number is, 180%. So that means your house has to go up 180%. No. The down payment has to go up 180% for you to ever catch up with. The house has to go up 180%. The bottom line is, take all the math away. If it don't pay you, why are you doing it? I don't want to pay for something. Now the other argument that Vlad, I know you've had is, well, you got to live somewhere. So it doesn't mean you need It doesn't mean you need to live in the same dumb place for 30 years. So it'd be like buying a car for 30 years. We're moving into an environment where people are going to own nothing. People are going to rent clothes. They're going to rent furniture. They're going to rent cars. We're not going to own cars. It's already happening where people are leasing now more than they're owning because they're waking up to the fact, why do I want this car for 7 years?
Yeah. I lease all my cars. I rent all my homes.
Yep.
And all the money I make in my business, I invest. For me, it's in the stock market. For you, it's in real estate, but it's the same type of concept for both of us. Yeah.
For me, like, because I'm a coward. You're much more courageous when it comes to investing than I am. I am a pure coward. Like, I have to have income. For me to, that's why I won't buy Bitcoin. Okay, I won't buy Bitcoin because it's not income. Maybe I would, like, if you wanted to give me some Bitcoin, I'll take it and sit on it. But gold. Okay, I need income. I want income every month. And what I do with my income, I don't care how much income it is. The more income, the better for me. Because I want enough income to where I can start doing stupid stuff. This is my economic class for everybody. This is called economics for stupidity. You want enough passive income coming in that you can buy dumb shit. And until you have passive income, money that's not taxed at the earned rates, people shouldn't buy dumb shit. So like Floyd Mayweather, he goes out and earns whatever, $300 million, and then he spends the 300. He shouldn't do that. He should take the 300, pay the taxes, because he's getting taxed at 53%, probably 60%, because he lives in California, I think. Maybe he lives in Vegas now. So he's getting taxed at 50. He should take that $150 million, invest it into something that pays him every month, and then go buy Gucci and Fendi.
Right. I mean, Floyd is a flashy guy. He's going to keep spending his money until he runs out.
And he could, but he should spend it out of passive income, not earned income, and he would never run out of it.
Well, speaking of flashy purchases, you actually ended up buying your own private jet.
That's right.
Okay, how long ago did you buy that?
I bought the jet. Man, you do a lot of research, dude. You're awesome, man. I underestimated you. So I bought the jet, 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
Okay. And can you say how much you spent on it?
It's a Gulfstream 550, so those go between, $45 million and $50 million, depending on how they're equipped.
Okay. Now, I mean, there are services out there like NetJets and so forth, which you could
right.
use private jets and so forth. You're real big on renting. Why buy an actual jet?
It's a great question. And worthy of a good answer, okay? I came up with a tax bill 2 years ago, 2 Christmases ago. My accountant said, hey, we got an issue. I said, well, how are we going to solve the issue? Because we having an issue means I always write a check. So how are we going to solve this issue? Because you can't help me. You don't have any money. So he says, no, dude, there's no way around this tax bill you have. I said, hey, John Cooper, there's always a solution. If you got money, there's a solution. Okay, the tax game requires you have money, right? So I said I could give the money away. And then I solved my problem. He said, yeah, but you don't want to do that. I said, okay, well, I mean, I can give some of it away, but what else can we do? I said, I could spend a bunch of money in marketing. I said, what about a jet? I could buy a jet, right? I said, he's like, yeah, you could, but that doesn't make sense. I hung up on him, called my billionaire friend and said, hey, what do you think, man? I said, I can wipe out my whole tax bill right now by picking up this bad boy. Okay, and it's not a model plane. Okay, carries 50,000 pounds of fuel in each or 25,000 pounds in each wing. It'll take me 14 hours. I have customers all over the world. I shop real estate all over the world. He's like, yeah, you should definitely do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, in terms of luxury items, I've always heard that the private jet is really at the top of the heap because it really allows you to go wherever you want, whenever you want, on your own schedule.
For as long as you want. And
for as long as you want,
the IRS loved my purchase so much, they wiped out my tax requirement, my tax bill for that year and the following year.
Well, how much does it actually cost to take a trip in a jet like that? Like if you go cross country in a private jet, it's not like buying a first class ticket. It's a lot more.
Oh yeah, totally. But I don't, like what's the fuel cost? I don't know. I know this. The jet don't fly without the fuel.
Right. And the pilot.
So it costs about $3 million a year to keep that jet though. But look, I just did 9 countries in 34 days. My kids traveled with me. They're 7 and 10 years old. A nanny's on the plane with them, homeschooling them. I have friends with me on the trip and executives of the company. My wife and I are together, go where we want, when we want. The trips are tax deductible because I got customers all over the world. And we're using this piece of equipment like Coca-Cola or General Electric would, or Apple Computer or Facebook. They have their own planes. And they use those planes so that they can buy time. You're leveraging time. You're trading money for time.
Right, and that's the one thing that's more valuable than anything else.
And that little beast of equipment right there, that piece of equipment, when you tell somebody, hey, if you want a meeting with somebody, hey, I'm picking you up, I'm flying in New York, I'll pick you up and take you wherever you're going. I mean, it does open up some doors because it does suggest for somebody to bank one of those, it suggests that you've been extremely disciplined for long periods of time. It doesn't happen overnight. Just because you make money doesn't mean you can buy a jet. And just because you can buy a jet doesn't mean you have any place to go. I mean, you still need a place to go because you don't want to just sitting out there going to zero.
I mean, besides the jet, what do you think was your biggest purchase that wasn't like a piece of property?
A Patek watch.
Okay, a little less than a jet.
Yeah,
quite a gap between those two purchases.
But way dumber than the jet. Okay, the jet's $50 million. The Patek's a couple $100,000, right? The Patek the Patek will never make me any money.
Well, the Patek will retain its value.
I'll never sell it, so it doesn't matter. So it's a moot conversation.
Okay, fair enough. Patek is one of the few companies that do maintain its value, along with Rolex.
Yeah, I know, but it'll never make me any money. It'll give me a compliment, makes me feel good about myself. It's a dick on my wrist, but it's dumb. It's dumb. Now I would never do the Patek if I didn't have the passive income to write the check.
There you go. Well, besides the real estate business, you have other businesses as well. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, I got a number of businesses. Cardone Training Technologies. I got an online university. It does an e-commerce business. It does about $40 million a year. 10X Events, which is an event business. We'll probably do 10 or 15 million bucks this year with our event business. Cardone Ventures, a new company that I just started where we're actually partnering, being angel investors, providing intelligence, support, collaboration, connections, advice, and money, finance to small startups. CardoneKern.com, it's a social media company where we do advertising for small and medium-sized businesses. So yeah, I'm tinkering with something almost all the time.
Right, and the events that you do are pretty massive. Like I've seen some of the videos and pictures. Like you really have huge numbers of people coming out to these.
Thank you so much. I did an event last year, 35,000 people there. Steve Harvey spoke on stage with me. He's like, man, I had no idea. He's like, you got more people here than Jay-Z and Beyonce. The difference was they were there for 3 days, not 2 hours, and they were there to learn and get information on being entrepreneurs and businesses. There were people there from, 17-year-old kid from Scandinavia that flew all the way across the world to be at the event, to Fortune 100 companies and their CEOs and executives trying to figure out how to go to the next level, scale using technology today to get them there.
Now, why focus on these other types of businesses? Because, you've done so well with real estate.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to successful people, they stick with what they know.
Yeah.
You don't know stocks, so you don't mess with stocks. I don't know real estate, I don't touch real estate. But here you are expanding into other areas when you've been so successful in one. Now, why is that?
So, it's a good question. One is, this is how I got started. So I've never abandoned my first flow of income. So, like, we have a webinar business. We do webinars 3 or 4 times a year. We do a couple $1 million of net profit, right? So we charge people to attend a webinar that can't travel to me. It's $49. It opens it up to another market. Every $50 means $150 worth of real estate to me. So every business, all money ends up in real estate sooner or later. These are ways for me to replenish my cash reserves so I can go out and buy real estate. And on top of that, I'm extremely passionate about helping people. And I think Vlad, part of what drives me is when my dad died and I was 10, I waited for probably 60 days for my dad to come back. Like, I went into this delusion that, okay, he didn't really die. I was mowing the grass one Saturday afternoon and realized, hey, dude, your dad ain't coming back. And then I started waiting for my uncles to show up. I said, man, I need somebody to show up. And by the time I was 16, I'm like, nobody's showing up. My older brother had moved off. He had gone off to college, and now he was doing his deal, so he was gone. And I was like, man, if I ever make it, I told my mom this, if I ever become successful, because my mom was trying to be my dad, and a mother can't be a dad. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard she tried, she could not give me what I needed. I needed a man. And when I was 16 years old, I told my mom, I said, one day I'm going to be really successful. I was being that brat kid, I'm going to be really super successful one day, Mom, and I'm going to help other people. And I think I really meant part of that. So today, like when I go places, we meet people that, your question's, very accurate. Why am I not just spending every second buying another real estate deal? Because you can't $49 your way to $400 million worth of real estate.
Well, there was a study that was done when they looked at, the majority of the billionaires out there. And they said that on average, a billionaire has only 2% of their net worth in real estate. Most people thought it would be higher, including myself. Why do you think that is?
I've never heard that number, so I didn't know that. I think that, one, we're in a changing environment now, and that you're seeing people shift to real estate that is just internet real estate. You're seeing so much money now generated because of the disruption in the marketplace from things that are heavy and hard to move. Real estate's not an easy thing for people to purchase. So it's
right.
It's big, it's cumbersome, it's not going away. It's illiquid. A lot of people like liquidity. I don't want liquidity. I take liquidity and trade it for illiquidity any day of the week.
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, I'm actually looking at the breakdown right now. Most billionaires put their money in public holdings, so 36.4% stock market, basically. Private holdings at 35%. Liquid assets, such as cash, at 26%, and real estate and luxury assets at 2.2%.
Yeah.
But then again, there's the real estate billionaires, who have almost all their money in real estate. This is just on average, though. I mean, because there is the liquidity aspect. Stocks have the advantage of you being able to sell all or some of it in a split second, and there's no maintenance. There's no closing costs. There's no need to look for a buyer. You could instantly press a button and unload $100 million just like that. But at the end of the day,
that's terrifying to me too, by the way, because the trillions of dollars is sitting in ETFs right now. One day, somebody is going to decide, hey, we're going to gut this party, and we're going to gut a whole bunch of millionaires and decamillionaires all at one time. So it's happened before. It can be manipulated. You can't really manipulate what I'm doing. The heavier the piece of, like you can't manipulate, millions of square feet of residential property that thousands of families live in. That they can't buy homes like they did in the 50s. These are going to be renters forever. We're becoming a renter nation like Europe.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because my parents were able to buy a house for like a 1 year's salary back in the day.
Yeah.
That is just not possible in most major cities.
Right.
Maybe in Kentucky or Iowa somewhere, but not in any sort of city where there's a big job market.
And people don't even want to anymore. You got 68 million baby boomers in the United States. They don't want to buy a house. They want to go travel. Maybe they want to go to Croatia for the first time in their life. And they're like, oh my God, we got to close up the house. Somebody's got to watch it. We can't be gone. Really, they don't even want a house anymore.
I agree, man. I actually like being able to move to a different house every few years. I get tired. And I've lived in some of the nicest houses out there. And yet you want something different every few years.
Totally.
This is cool. And there's always the argument, well, what about your kids that go to school? You could always rent something in the same school district. Always.
Your kids are going to move out. It's the first chance your kids get to blow your house, they're going to leave.
Right.
So we went, we just did this 9-country tour. We were at a different house in every country we went to. Well, that's a good experience for my kids.
Yeah.
There were houses in the sky, houses on the ocean, houses on the beach, houses in the jungle. Like this is the way people want to live today. Millennials, you got 80 million millennials. They don't want to live in one place.
Well, I was watching one of your videos, and a guy called in and was looking to buy an 8-unit property. And you said not to do it, and you said that you don't consider anything under 32 units.
Yeah.
How does a person, an average investor, afford something that's 32 units? We're talking about millions of dollars.
32
minimum.
units times 100,000, that's probably going to be the average price you pay. Maybe 80,000, 32 times 80s, 2.4 million. You're going to need 600 grand. You need to go figure out 600 grand and not do the $6,000 deal. Okay, the $6,000 down is not going to be a workable deal. So how does a person do it? How do you make money in real estate? That's the real question. Not how to get started. How do you guarantee to make money? Don't go too small. The 1 unit, 2 unit, 4 unit, 8 unit, they're going to go back to the banks. It's just when. Or they're just going to be such a pain in the ass that you're going to be like, I wish we didn't even own this.
Right.
And so my encouragement to people, if you're going to do 1 or 2 units, get in and flip. Get your money and build your nest egg like that. There's nothing wrong with using the 1s, 2s, and 4s to get in, wholesale the deal, hold the contract, pick up a little dough, sell it to the doctor, the chiropractor, the amateur. They're not going to keep it. And if they keep it, they're going to hate it. Or find a guy like me that's doing big deals and ride along with him. There's nothing wrong with riding on the coattails. I wish I would have lent Jeff Bezos $1 million.
Right.
And ridden on his coattails. There's no shame in finding a sure thing and saying, hey, I'm going to ride. Warren Buffett's been riding on Coca-Cola, American Express, like Apple. He's like, hey, I'm just going to buy 10% of the company. The problem with everyday people can't buy big enough positions in companies to really know what's going on.
Yeah, I've been riding Jeff Bezos and Google's coattails now for years. You know, I saw early on how strong of a company these two were, and I just bought in big positions and I just kept them.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, they look at stocks, and this is a similarity between me and you. They say, well, what's the point of having these stocks if you're not making any money from them? And it's like, well, to grow your wealth. It's not about chipping off money to yourself. It's about growing your overall wealth. Because once you get to a financial level where your worth, whether it's savings, stocks, real estate, whatever it is, once you have a net worth that's substantial, you will stop making short-term decisions in your life. You will start making long-term decisions in your life. And the most successful people have the longest sort of window of time that they're aiming at. Really, really wealthy people are looking at what happens to them after they're dead.
Yeah.
Middle class people are looking at next year. Poor people are trying to get to next week.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And the longer you wait, the longer you're looking at down the line, the more strategic, decisions you're going to make, and you're going to always do better.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Well, I was watching one of your videos, and a caller called in, and he said, well, Dave Ramsey said that I should only buy my house. I should buy my house and buy it in cash.
Yeah.
And you said,
I shouldn't have said what you're about to say, but go ahead.
You said Dave Ramsey's stupid.
Dave Ramsey, I mean, look, Dave, you're a good dude, but look, Dave Ramsey is he's like all debt is bad debt. If the TV company and radio house didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a show, pal. Like, don't bite the old horse in the mouth, or whatever that saying is, the gift horse or whatever. Like, if you didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a show, right? The publishing company that publishes your books, if they didn't use debt, you wouldn't have a book. Like, it's not true what he's telling people. What happened to Dave Ramsey was he took on too much debt, it busted him, and he went on to become an educator that debt's bad. Well, yeah, but then he goes on to say you shouldn't borrow money. He wouldn't borrow money to buy a car. He would ride a bike to work. Stupid, man. It doesn't make any sense. You live in New York City, you might need transportation, right? If you live in Kansas City, you're probably going to need a car because you might live in Houston, Texas, you're going to be 45 minutes outside the energy corridor. You're going to have to get there with your kids. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, lastly, I'll say this about Dave. If I was on TV every damn day, man, you know how rich I would be? Dave's worth about 50 million bucks. Okay, that's what my plane costs. He ain't buying a plane.
I feel you, man. Like I said, I agree with you. Buying a house and even buying it all with cash to me is ridiculous.
If you gave me $700,000 and said, "Hey, go buy a house with it," I'd be like, "Do you want to give me the $700,000? I'll do whatever I want with it."
Right.
Okay. But if you gave me a house worth $700,000, I'd sell it for $600,000 the same day, get my $600,000. And I'm going to take my $600,000 and I'm going to go buy $2.4 million worth of real estate that pays the debt down in 30 years, and it'll probably be worth $7 or $8 or $9 or $10 million to my kids. I'm not going to even be around 30 years from now. My kids wake up 30 years from now and they got a $10 million piece of property paid for that's paying $3,000 or $4,000 a month or $5,000 a month, no telling what the rent's going to be in 30 years. I don't want one house in some neighborhood that probably dies anyway. The neighborhood dies.
Okay, so I think that the book that you're most known for is the 10X Rule?
Yeah, probably so. That's probably right.
Okay, so explain to me what that means exactly.
Okay,
because I've read through the book, but explain what 10X means.
Yeah, the 10X is a multiplier. Okay, it's the super successful, and I would tell your viewer, you're studying the wrong people. People should be studying the most successful companies in the world, not individuals. Don't worry about Dave or Gary or Tony or Grant. What are successful people doing? One of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life was tracking people that were doing better than me. So what? Like I made so many dumbass decisions because Dave did it, or the Millionaire Next Door, that book. I don't want to be the millionaire next door. I want to know what Jeff Bezos is doing. I want to know what the boys at Google are doing. Okay? Why does a guy like Mark Zuckerberg go from college dorm room to one of the richest people on the planet? That's who we should be studying. And don't listen to everybody else. Because those people have financial freedom to the point to where they can do anything they want. Like, you cannot mess up some of these people's situation. They couldn't screw it up if they wanted to. So the 10X rule it says, hey, look, you want to scale to a point to where you have the life you deserve. It's not about the money you want or the money you need. Scale your business so you can walk away from it and money never stops taking care of you and your family.
Yeah, man. I mean, in the same way, when I started investing in stocks, the first thing I did was, find the guy that was more successful than anyone ever. And there was only one person who did that, which was Warren Buffett.
Yeah, there you go.
So I read his book, and then I read the book that he learned from, Benjamin Graham. And those two books completely changed my entire life and the way I look at life and money and everything. And I never looked back ever since. I wish I'd learned this, when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So, and I actually read the 10X Rule. Great book.
Yeah, thank you. And what you said about Warren is like, you don't need to study 27 different Warrens. You study one Warren, you're probably going to be good. And the other thing I would tell the viewer is like, most of us, because of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, we're listening to so many different people that people do nothing. This is the new crisis of our era. People are doing nothing, not because they're lazy, because they have data that is conflicting. So if you listen to Dave says buy a house, then you listen to Grant says that's stupid, you're not going to do anything. And if you're never going to buy any real estate, hey, go ahead and buy one house. Yeah, you're going to regret it later, and you're going to be like, I wish I'd have done what Cardone said. But you got to do something. And what you don't want to do is listen to God and the devil, because then you get stuck in purgatory and you don't have any fun at all.
Well said. Grant Cardone, definitely a pleasure.
You're the man,
Let's
dude.
do it again. Let's do it again in the future, man.
Love to.
Excellent advice. And definitely appreciate you sitting down with me.
Anytime I can do anything for you, I will, all right?
Let's do it.
Thanks.
Peace.
Awesome guy.